world today. Our youth are really facing a world that's full of conflict and feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders, and that's even without climate change. And as has been mentioned, youth mental health generally is a growing concern, and it warrants urgent action. So for instance, even in the past 5 years, suicide was the second leading cause of death for young people between 10 to 24 years old. And feelings of sadness and hopelessness increased 40% among young people even before COVID hit. And even while COVID hit, Pew research found that 58% of young people faced high levels of psychological distress during that time, and 37% of high school students reported regular mental health struggles. I don't know if you have young people in your life. I do. I am seeing this firsthand, and the data bear out. What we also know is that children's mental health is largely shaped by their family and household health. So in other words, parental well-being and support can be not only influence children's mental health outcomes, but even be a protective factor. And so some of these factors that are influencing mental health in our children today includes, again, COVID-19. Also, and by the way, those effects are still lingering, even though we're kind of over the bolus of, having to stay at home and so forth. The kids are still feeling the effects. Racism and discrimination is absolutely influencing mental health and well-being. And again, suicide rates among children and youth are high, but among Black youth between the ages of 10 to 24, the suicide rates grew by almost 37%, in the years leading up and through COVID. And while white children and youth, the suicide rates dropped by a few percent. So racism deeply influences the health outcomes of children, and is labeled a social determinant of health. And other social determinants of health, including poverty, housing security, access to food, access to medical care. As also already mentioned, other factors like social media, gun violence, are all weighing on the minds of young folks. And the list is actually so long that we won't go into it, but the report covers more. And really it just helps you to provide this context of where children are today. They're just connected and they know about things, and it weighs on them. And so the impacts of climate change really compound these other factors and almost acts like a force multiplier on the children's mental health, because it's just so overwhelming. What you see on the screen right now really shows the interconnectedness of physical, mental, and community health. You can't have mental health without physical health. You can't have full physical health without mental health. We just really cannot separate mental health from our health. And sometimes we think of it that way. And I think as a society, what this chart shows us, and you can see it in the report in greater detail, is that it is absolutely interconnected and we need to be caring for it. And our children need us to help them care for their mental health as well. And what the chart also shows is how inequities impact the well-being, and also how family and household health play a role in the health outcomes of children. And so, again, as all those stresses are a normal part of everyday life, for young populations made vulnerable, climate change has even a stronger impact for them. Mental health is shaped not only by biology, but a range of social factors, as we mentioned before. We also, in the opening section of the report, talk about some of the climate attitudes and concerns. And one of the things that the research bears out is that the perceived failure of government to take action on climate is a high concern for young people and people writ large. It also plays into the fact that people believe that folks are not concerned about climate change. When no one is acting on it or talking about it, people think they're not concerned. And the reality is 72% of Americans are concerned about climate, including 45% who are very concerned, but but they only think around 14% of people around them are very concerned. So think about that, almost 3 times as many people are concerned about climate than you think, and that gap in perceived concern leads to inaction. And so we can't stress this enough, Americans are very concerned, they do want action, and even when you start to ask them about their feelings, and folks aren't always so forthcoming about their feelings, but almost a third say they feel anxiety, and almost, a quarter say they feel depressed. But certainly the antidote to all of this is action on the issue. And so, but there's more context that is in the report. I encourage you to read it, but now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Susan Clayton, who's going to walk you through the impacts. Thank you.